Hello and welcome to Site B. My brain is not working very well lately. So if I've said this before, I apologize. But we're responding to this thing that Miss Jeannie D said about the worst advice she ever got as a beginning DM and how it damaged her growth as a beginning DM. And this advice was, don't over-prepare. So then, if that's the worst advice, I guess the best advice would be prepared. And that came to mind, of course, the grandma's house scenario. And if there's anything that truly encapsulates the don't over-prepare, it's my, start small, grandma's house, 5-room dungeon. Okay, because you can over-prepare the shit out of your game. And there's still a 30% chance they're going to do something that totally leaves you sitting there going, well, I don't know where you got that idea from, but I'm completely not prepared for that. So it doesn't matter if you are just starting out DM, if you're Matt Mercer, if you're Colville, if you're me, if you're the best DM in the world, doesn't matter if you've been doing it for 10 days, 20 years. You cannot prepare for everything they're gonna do at your table, because I guarantee it, at least once a game, if not every game, somebody's going to come up with something when you're like, yeah, huh? There's not even rules for that, dude. The grandmother's house story is, of course, a perfect idea of, well, you're prepared for everything, but. And a variation of this has happened to me. And a variation of this has happened to a DM I used to play with, where I was able to run with it and just see where things were going and still sort of have things that I wanted to happen in some level. Not everything I wanted to happen, but I was still able to sort of tell the adventure for them and still keep them happy, while my friend just totally locked down, table flipped, had no idea what to do when things went off the rails. So basically, this breaks down to the idea that you've got a whole adventure plan. And you've got every possible wherewithal that you think that they're going to react to. You've at least got a nut. But then, one of the players out of the blue mentions in his backstory that his grandmother lives really near to where you are. And that kernel worms its way into everybody's unconscious. And suddenly, for reasons that cannot be explained by science, everybody comes obsessed with wanting to go to grandma's house. And the more you as a DM try to prevent them from going to grandma's house and stay on target, the more they will resist, because they don't like the feeling of being railroaded. Now they really want to go to grandma's house, and they start becoming determined and hostile, and anything that stands in their way of going against the grandma's house, they see as a direct assault. And you're sitting there going, but I didn't plan on this. I've got my 100-page adventure, and you're not doing it. What do I do? Because now all they want to do is go to grandma's house, and I'm not prepared. Because there's no way you could. There is no way. No matter how over-prepared you were, the idea that one player would go, hey, my grandmother lives near here, and they would suddenly become obsessed with that, would happen. So now you're like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Well, of course, the answer is, don't panic. Run with it. See where this is going. I mean, okay, you had an adventure plan. And in order for the adventure to happen, a certain series of events had to happen, right? Let's say you're running, is it Storm King's Thunder? No, it's Giant Slayer. You're running Giant Slayer. And in Giant Slayer, there's a thing where the adventurers are supposed to leave town and go find a lost druid grove to acquire certain MacGuffins, certain things they need to further progress Giant Slayer and help them deal with the fact that I'm second level and suddenly I'm fighting a hill giant. What? So that's what's supposed to happen. But for some reason, that's not where they go. They go in a completely different direction. And you're completely unplanned for that. You're not expecting them to go to Grandma's house. Don't panic. Because remember, you are in complete control of everything that happens in the game, and the order it happens is. They don't know what you have planned until they go there, right? Am I right? Okay, all right. Doing my Sean Dean impression. All right. They were supposed to go to X to move the adventure forward. But there's nothing saying you can't move X to where they're going, because now they have given you a present. They've given you an NPC and a location that they are obsessed with. Grandma and her house can become the new hub to generate stuff that you think they might be interested in, while still sort of telling Storm King's Thunder, Giant Slayer. I mean, they're the same adventure in some new, different way. The general, plot is still there. Giants are being all uppity. Why? The thing they needed, well, I could just move that, right? Right? Maybe Grandma has the thing. She's been holding on to it all these years because she was alive when the giants invaded the first time. Maybe the thing is now on the way to Grandma's house. Or maybe Grandma knows about it and tells you about it. Or maybe suddenly you're like, well, you know what? That thing's not important, because all I really have to do is keep them somewhat interested. Howdy. In this plot, and generally build up the giants are bad and are doing stuff idea. Grandma can do that. Where they're going can do that. Fuck. I could have a giant destroy Grandma's house just as they reach it. And now suddenly you're back on track. You're telling a new story while still respecting the fact that Grandma's house was important to them, and giving yourself the trust to run with it and make shit up because you were prepared. And yes, you weren't prepared for go to them, but you were prepared for the fact that they might do something ridiculous. And you were prepared enough that you could take things and just throw them on the wall in a new way and see how they lay out. Those 5 things can still happen to move whatever it is that's getting them involved forward, to keep them feeling like, oh yeah, what I'm saying matters, what I'm doing matters, how dare you kill Grandma. But now they're not feeling, oh, you're forcing me to make decisions. Now they're feeling like my decisions are forcing things to happen in the world. And now I'm suddenly engaged again and interested in what's going on with Grandma, with this part of the world, with the giants. And suddenly you're like, okay, well, we're sort of on track. I can still generally tell a story about uppity giants. We're just doing it in a new, different way. And things aren't going to happen in the order I thought they were going to happen. And maybe I have to make something up. And maybe I have to remove something. But it's okay, because they're engaged. They're having fun. They've given me a gift by presenting me with this NPC and this location that I can now use to continue to perpetuate these 5 things. All right, what is these 5 things I'm talking about? Of course, we're talking about the 5-room dungeon, or the 5-point adventure, that everything sort of breaks down to 5 things that happen. There's no real order these things can happen. It's just 5 things that usually happen in pretty much any adventure, any encounter, any series of events that sort of are just archetypical for the hobby. Now, the first thing, of course, is where are they going and why are they going? There's the where you want them to go and why you want them to go. And then there's the where they are going and why they are going, which are often 2 different things. You have to give yourself permission to be prepared for that. Whether they do decide to take the NPC's job offer and investigate the uppity giants, or they decide to do something completely different, you can still run with it. Second thing is, you probably want a fight to happen relatively early. Even if they're walking to Grandma's house, you want to have a combat. You want to get the blood rolling, you want to get the dice rolling, you want to bond them together, you want to, test their mettle, see how prepared they are, see how prepared you are, help them get through anything they might be confused of, and a simple fight is the best way to do them. A couple mooks, not an overwhelming fight. They could probably win unless things go bad. But just something to sort of the appetizer. And maybe you could even use that fight as a clue to sort of plant a new kernel in their head, keeping with the theme of the adventure we're stealing. Okay, maybe there's some mooks who attack them who are somehow associated with the giants. Okay? Maybe it's one ogre, or maybe it's a couple cultists, or maybe it's just some bandits who are hired by the giants. But you could use them as a clue, or you could just something to wet the whistle. Now, the next thing you want to have happen is a skill test. And again, this is the same reason as you would have a combat, to get dice rolling, to get them thinking, to see what they can do, to see if they're, on the same page as you are. Are the things too easy or things too hard? Here's how you can judge, each individual set of unique skills that aren't related to combat. And are there going to be scenarios where they're completely unprepared for? What do you mean you guys didn't bring a single caster? What do you mean you didn't bring a single cleric? What do you mean none of you brought rope? Okay, so then you might want to throw in an role-playing encounter and a chance for them to talk to some NPCs, get some information, get some lore, here's some truths, here's some lies, plant some new seeds to percolate in their unconscious about things you hope they get interested in. Listen to them, listen to what they're interested in, and go, oh, I can run with that. No, I can't do that. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, that's what motivates your character? Yeah. But you don't want that to last too long. If it starts going longer than 20 minutes, that's too long. And you want to break that up with another fight. And again, this one should be slightly tougher than the first fight, but still, you kind of want to err on they're gonna win, but they're gonna take their licks in this one. So if the last fight was like 5 bandits, maybe this fight is the bandit lord, or the bandits general. Like one dude or a couple dudes who are just really tough, but not tough enough that unless things don't go their way, they're not gonna win. Because you want to keep them happy, you want to keep the dice rolling, you want to keep them engaged, you want to keep them focused. Here's another chance to drop clues, to drop kernels, to gently massage ideas you like and gently remove ideas you don't like. But still keep them engaged and still make them feel like they are causing things to happen, even if secretly you and I know, no, you're causing things to happen. And then finally, the 5th room is a big encounter, usually with a reward. So if the last encounter was with the bandit lord's generals, then the next one's with the bandit lord, or the next one's with an actual ogre, or maybe a small giant, something to really bring the things home. Like I said, maybe they get to Grandma's house just in time to see Grandma's house get attacked and blown up. Maybe you don't want to kill grandma, but you just definitely want to get them angry at the bad guy and really like, okay, this is it. This is the Hans Gruber moment at the end of Die Hard. This is us blowing up the Death Star. This is going to be a really tough fight. But when we are victorious at the end, we're going to be excited. We've saved grandma. The world is a bigger place than we thought of. There's shit going on that we're completely not control of. There's new story hooks that we can now either listen to and move on to the next grandma's house, or story hooks that we can follow that you're actually prepared for. Or like, oh shit, finally they're going to the place I wanted them to go 3 weeks ago. And even if they never go, you could run with it. I mean, remember, I ran an 8-year campaign based off of a module that was 32 pages. It took them 2 years to actually complete the module because there was just so much shit that they got interested in and perpetrated that I was able to just keep running with it and constantly keeping them engaged. And occasionally I would drop little hints, but I never felt forced. I just, kind of gave them the feeling that there's shit going on, whether you are directly or indirectly involved with it. But, this is still happening. You can choose to engage with it or ignore it. Either way, I'm happy, but it's still going to happen. You might never know about it. Only be on the periphery. I mean, imagine how upset they'd be if they found out, another group of adventurers killed the Giant King and got all his stuff because they were busy shopping. What do you mean the NPCs got all the magic items? Well, you guys weren't doing it. So yeah, just run with it, I think is what I'm saying. So don't over-prepare. Well, you can't. There's no way you can prepare for every ridiculous thing they're going to do. So just be prepared for the fact that you're not prepared. Know the thing that you expected to run, but give yourself the freedom, the permission to run with things if they decide they want to go to grandma's house instead of whatever you had planned. Okay? All right. You are in charge. At the end of the day, you control in what order the scenes happen. You control the names. You have complete freedom of the magic marker to draw the world any way you want based upon how they're responding to the adventure and what choices they've made. And maybe going to grandma's house makes things way more interesting than you ever had planned, because now they're engaged. And if you do something horrible to grandma, they're even more engaged because now they want revenge. I mean, there's only so many stories we can tell, right? And there's only so many ways we can tell them. So sooner or later, something's going to happen that you were completely unprepared for. And then you've just got to sort of wing it. And that's okay. Also, remember, anything Genie D says is suspect. Anyways, I'm the OG GM. If you appreciate this information that's coming out of my mouth, let me know. Help me hit 700 subs by June 1st. Till next time, get off my land.